It's probably a little bit much to say that Shima falls in love with Mitsumi in the very first episode of Skip and Loafer, but he's definitely into her because of the kind of energy that she exudes when they first meet on the Tokyo subway before school. But it takes a few episodes to really figure out the reason why Shima was drawn to Mitsumi. If anything, they initially seemed like a very unlikely pair. But things really fell into place for me in episode 5, when a character called Mika speculates about an explanation behind Shima's feelings. Mika notices that Mitsumi is very different from Shima, but that's probably part of the attraction. Mitsumi's personality must possess something that Shima feels that he's missing in himself. And as a result, Shima must somehow feel more complete when he's together with Mitsumi. I think that this speculation is pretty clearly correct. And Shima actually goes so far as to tell Mitsumi outright what his personality is missing in episode 4. As Shima explains it, it's the fact that he doesn't really have any overarching goals in life. He lives somewhat apathetically. There's nothing that he really wants. And so, even though he's certainly a cheerful guy, he also feels somewhat empty on the inside. This deficiency or emptiness probably has its origin in Shima's past, when he used to be a reasonably successful child actor. He had pretty lofty ambitions during that period of his life, but it was also something he was doing strictly for the sake of his mom, who seemed to be very controlling and perhaps a little bit cold and suffocating. It seems like Shima's mom didn't give him the space to develop his own ambitions and desires in life, and the effects of her influence survive to the present day. He has certainly freed himself from her direct control by giving up on acting, but he hasn't yet taken the next step of self-recovery by formulating his own plan for his own future, and so he continues to live with an air of apathy. I think this backstory goes a long way toward explaining the reason why Shima was so astonished with Mitsumi when he first met her. Mitsumi has this really ambitious and earnest vision for her future, and even though she's a little bit neurotic and spacey, she uses that nervous energy and imagination as an endless supply of fuel. And this gives her a pervasive aura of originality and drive that Shima somewhat wishes he could possess for himself. There's a really beautiful representation of Mitsumi's effect on Shima very early on in episode 1, during that excellent scene where they first meet on the subway. The two of them are both late to their first day at school. Shima is late because he slept in and he can't be bothered to rush. But Mitsumi, on the other hand, is late because she got lost. She's new to the city, she's a bundle of nervous energy, and she's mortified at the idea of making a bad first impression at her fancy new prep school. Shima initially calms Mitsumi's nerves and helps to guide her part of the way toward their shared destination. But on the last leg of their journey, the two of them begin to run. Mitsumi is a little bit slow at first, and then she trips and face plants right into the pavement, losing a shoe in the process. But then she gets up, straight up removes her socks and shoes, and starts running at a desperate pace with a crazy look on her face. Shima, meanwhile, is initially bewildered by Mitsumi's crazy sense of urgency that he cannot understand. But then that bewilderment gives way to a smile, as he decides to admire that very same urgency. And he picks up the pace of his run to keep up with her, even though it violates his customary law of apathy, and he cannot understand the source of her energy. I regard this moment as sort of a broader symbol of what Mitsumi will mean to Shima after entering his life. She's the person who has the power to make him run again, just like he did in his childhood when he became an actor for the sake of his mom. She pushes him to shed a piece of that apathy that makes him late to school, or that makes him drop from social engagements as though his presence doesn't really matter. But Mitsumi doesn't acquire this power by directly controlling Shima in the way that his mother did. She acquires it purely by having a vision for her own life that she wants to live, and by having a willingness to do anything to achieve it, no matter how embarrassing or difficult. Mitsumi's vision inspires Shima with its earnest and straightforward beauty, and that inspiration is the thing that completes him when he enjoys Mitsumi's companionship.